Good afternoon, Diana. How are you?
Hi, Kate. Hello, lovely lady. I'm really well. How are you?
Very well, very weekendish, I would say.
Okay, so channeling those weekend vibes.
Yeah.
Nice.
And definitely, a good weekend is one spent in a state of grace.
I
So,
couldn't I couldn't agree more.
it's deeply delightful that you've come along and you're here to talk about grace. I'm looking forward to taking that journey with you.
Thank
And
you for inviting me. I appreciate it, Kate.
yeah,
That's lovely. It's very nice of you. Thank you.
and I feel like as a holistic counselor person,
Hmm.
that it's all about the holistic viewpoint. And I'm
Hmm.
wondering, I imagine that I'm asking you, both as your personal and professional self, what you see as being a state of grace.
Mm.
Mm.
So, um, for the purposes of the audience, you had told me obviously previously that this was going to be the topic. So I had the opportunity to sort of drop into my inner self and make a connection and see what came out of that in terms of framing grace. What does that mean for me?
Mm.
And so I think I wrote back to you something along the lines of when I explore grace for myself, it feels like a state of being, but not just any state. It's actually, um, excuse me, um, a state of embodiment of, where parts of us are at peace and in kindness. And what else? I actually wrote it down. I said peace, wisdom, and kindness. That's right, because what I perceive when I observe other people in a state of grace, um, invariably what I observe, what stands out to me is that peacefulness, an innate wisdom, um, a kind of state where there's something almost childlike and an innocence, that innocence of a child underneath, in conjunction with the deepest wisdom of perhaps lifetimes, gathered, all happening together and embodied within a person, wrapped up in this beautiful thing we call a body.
How beautiful, wrapped up in this beautiful thing we call the body. It's the vessel, isn't it, for carrying whatever we carry, whatever we choose to carry, whatever state we might like to call our own.
Yes, true. Yeah. For this particular journey, anyway.
Absolutely. So I love that you've expressed it like that. It's really wisdom. It's got a touch of innocence there, or do you see innocence perhaps as a state of connection? Like innocence implies to me that there's a certain acceptance of all that is. You don't have a vision of how you need it to be or want it to be.
Yeah. So, uh, uh, the image that I have as you ask me that question is actually an interesting one, not one I would have thought would come forward, but it is, so I'm going to share it. I don't know how much you know about the tarot cards. It's the sun card in the tarot with that child sitting on top of a horse and there's bright gold and light shining. So it's not um, it's not innocence as in immaturity.
Mm.
Innocence meaning that acceptance
Mm.
of the state, the unity,
Mm.
perhaps consciousness, um, the flow state, as we uh, consciously collaborate with highest aspects of ourselves in order to fully fulfill one's soul journey or soul's vision.
Mm.
Whether that's in service to the collective consciousness or whether there's some sort of a, awakening or personal development aspect going on, it's kind of irrelevant. It's all one anyway.
Fabulous explanation. Thank you for finding words for that. Yes, it's a state of, and when I say acceptance, it's not with sufferance. It's like knowing, just inner knowing that all is just as it should be, and there's that in itself allows one to be more graceful, I guess, because it gives you that sense of joy, because there's no kind of tightening around it should be so and yet it is not, or I must make it do this, etc. So when you say innocence, I think of that child's face, no wrinkles, just like present,
Beautiful,
just as is.
Yeah, and just ready for wherever, whatever, and trusting that the highest and the best is naturally going to be within that flow, whatever that flow is, wherever it's going to take him, her, it, situation, whatever. Yeah, it's a really beautiful transcendental state, of it transcends polarity consciousness and judgments and all of those things that we inherit in this human form. Even personality, the human personality, and those ego paradigms, if you will. I mean, we have them for a reason. So this is not a statement of judgment, but it just means that the wisdom allows us to transcend that state in order to experience and accept and be in the flow of that bigger picture.
Yeah. And it's also, as you speak there, I start to think, well, that's also something that living your eldership and moving towards the death process done properly, people will always say she's so graceful, or he's so, he's full of grace. And it's a kind of light, isn't it? Or a peace that comes to people who accept that they've been given a hugely beautiful thing in being alive,
Oh my goodness, so much. I mean, that innate state of peace, I think for me personally, having arrived at that for the most part, is invaluable, because I spent so much of my time, younger time in this life, experiencing so much turmoil and trauma, that arriving at peace just feels like there is no greater abundance. There is no greater reward on this planet than inner peace, seriously. And I really mean that. Like, I really mean that, because from that state of peace is the biggest state of grace, and I can literally just create anything I want from that, because there's just that wisdom, that knowing that, yeah, it'll be okay. It's great. It's perfect every moment.
You've moved into the second question that I had for you, which was, how does the state of grace play out in your own personal and professional life? So what I hear you saying there is that you've been on a journey, haven't we all, through these rocky roads, and then there you are with a much more light and ease and grace about you, and capacity to understand from an understanding of grace. And I wonder, how did you do that deliberately, like working in the kind of, first of all, how long have you been working as a therapist practitioner in the healing?
So, in practice, officially since 2005, that's when I graduated and went into private practice immediately. But by nature, the helping, being in service has always been my shtick in this life. Always, it's always been like that for me. I've always held space for people. I always, like, there were times where I felt, what do I walk around in the world with like a sign above my head saying strangers come and talk to me and tell me your problems and ask me questions? So it's always been like that for me. That's never not been the case. But I think eventually I worked out that maybe I can officially put some human structure around that energy and actually really anchor it and do something professionally with it and get paid for it.
Mm. And
Because
acknowledge.
I was paying greatly the price I paid. Sorry, just to finish that thought, I paid a great price energetically myself for not having those structures in my life, for just giving, 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 giving. There was a price to pay for that.
Mm. And at what stage do you feel on that journey, or beforehand, at what stage did grace become a focus for you? And did you start to feel that sense of peace?
Actually, grace was not the primary focus for me, and neither was peace. Actually, the journey, the present moment was the focus for me, and really mastering the present moment, that was the focus. And from that birthed peace primarily. I just noticed that for me there were two primary states that were emerging, that were a really quick catalyst, a transmutation catalyst. One was peace and the other one was joy. It was really interesting. So with joy, because I laugh, I'm quite easy to laughter. So I worked out how quickly joy could transmute, like I could move states with joy. But what was much more permanent, what felt truly, like more truly me, was that feeling of an inner peace. That was, I knew that when I felt, if there was any uncertainty around me, or if I tapped back into the energy of anxiety, which I used to suffer a lot from, and those sort of things, when I got to peace, I knew I was on the right track. That was like my little guiding light. Inner peace was it for me, and still is. And from that, then, there's I feel that I can then be more gracious in my life. So it was more like that. Yeah.
Okay, that's a really clear explanation of how you came to be there. Do you feel that your work is, what if you had to put a broad brushstroke on the journey, or what you really contribute to others in your holistic counseling? Of course, it's different for everybody in its
Sure.
in its minutiae, but what do you think is your essence? Like for me, and I'm sure you too, having studied many different types of therapies, and being surrounded by many different types of therapists, it ultimately comes down to the essence of who you are, and therefore what you're able to transmit with whatever modality you might have chosen to do so.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, Kate. I think that that's really the key, because I've spent really years allowing, for my sort of vision, my learning, my innate knowing, that sort of embodiment, to really land in terms of this holistic, this evolution of self. Really, there is no unity consciousness if it doesn't come through the highest version of self. Because when people don't work through their stuff and they're giving and giving and giving, because I know that was certainly the case for me, what that actually was, that wasn't unconditional giving, that was conditional martyrdom. That's not what creates unity consciousness. That's not the step towards, that next kind of phase in evolution. Whether it be frequency, I'm not talking about all of us levitating, in corners and doing whatever. I mean, we might come to that at some
Go
point,
on,
but
that'll be
that's
such
not, yeah, that's sort of not what I'm talking about.
Mm.
It's more like you say, it's that self, that conscious evolution of self.
Mm.
And however that plays out, I mean, for some it's this, for others it's that, we have our own journeys depending on what we choose to bring into a life and what we choose to, or what we need to experience in order for us to evolve first and foremost. But that then put together is this beautiful, trajectory of light, expansion of light. Light is information, etc. Anyway, we won't go into quantum physics, but you know what I mean.
I get
Yeah.
the gist.
Yeah, I bet you do.
And that feels like something that feels like your focus point where you're taking people to keep moving in to that expanded vision away from the minutiae of the pain. Like the thing is that trauma in whatever form that lands in your body leads to a constriction, which is inevitably not going to allow you to expand because it's the opposite force.
Yeah.
It's a shrinking.
Yeah, well, survival states, those primal survival states that are triggered when we experience trauma are really fear states. And yes, they're contracting. And so it's about learning why that happens, and then how to transcend that. And then eventually in time, how to consciously work with those states to dissolve those, I guess timeline, so that it's not that it didn't happen. It's just that the potency's gone. So the emotional triggers and the mental triggers and those things are no longer in the way of the natural innate flow of peace, of those heart-centered attributes.
Beautiful. So if you had to, left of field, close your eyes and think of a mental picture that you see when you think of gracefulness, being graceful, what comes to you?
A hug, holding hands, listening, laughing, community, conversation, support, I want to say it's kind of what I'm thinking is kind of understanding and tolerance, but they don't feel like the right words. Just acceptance. Acceptance is the right word, I think, of each other. It feels like grace to me. If grace is a state of being, then that being is community, because it's more than one thing. Because, that's what I think about when I think of, grace, and maybe even holding someone's hand and showing the way, or supporting them, or walking alongside someone, like the trail project, the UN Trail that you are involved with now. Maybe that too is grace, or gracefulness, a behavior that serves that in that way.
So beautiful. I hadn't ever thought about grace like that, but to me, that is the manifestation of grace lived communally, because real community, supportive, loving, hugging, hand-holding type of community, Yeah, and it just makes you want to smile, doesn't it? Just the thought of it.
Yeah.
Imagine all the people.
I know. And I don't mean to be like really naive and romanticize the whole thing, but truly, when I think of grace, it really holds that beautiful energy to me. Like when you can be with another human or an animal or sit beside a tree or have a flower in your hair, and there's just that tenderness,
Mm, mm.
with another living being.
Gorgeous. I just love it. Yeah, it's really, really nice because that's where it will take us. And may
Yeah,
it
I
be
think so
so.
too. Yeah, I hope so. I think if we can envision it, we can manifest it.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing here at SoulAdvisor. That's for
Yay.
sure. Together as community, the whole point is nourish yourself, heal our world. And that nourishment that we get,
Mm,
not only in terms of eating a really good salad, but, hanging out and having these kind of conversations and finding ways to support our community that actually nourishes everybody in our community, allows us to heal the world, because that is healing the world.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we'll get there. We're just guys having an exorcism right now, and we are just, oh boy, we need to witness all the last 5,000 years, all the ways in which we have hurt.
Thank you. Yes, we do. The truth telling and the living in the reality of the situation, the sorry business part of that has to come up and have all of us be compassionate and hold each other through. I think the reason that our particular form of acting in the world and in the healing frame, therapists, practitioners, there's so many of us at the moment. There really, really are. In Australia alone, we have over 33,000 yoga teachers. So
Wow.
yeah, hello. There's so many people out there doing the work of bringing people back to themselves, because that's all it is. And our very nature is grace. Yeah.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's just coming back. Yeah. So how's about, as a finishing thought here,
Mm-hmm.
for those of our listeners, how
Mm-hmm.
do you feel we can more fully live with grace? Like, what practices or focus or guidelines might we put in place to try and live with more grace in our own lives?
Oh, that's a big question. Okay. Immediately, I want to say there is something really interesting that I observe happens with people that don't feel like they have that embodied peace and maybe even joy in their life consistently. And that is, there's a lot of focus on those external distractions.
Mm.
And so I immediately want to say, please, if work towards not disowning yourself, work towards not ignoring, and this sounds like a negative, I'm saying it in a negative way. Maybe I'll rephrase, work towards honoring your thoughts, your feelings. Doesn't matter what they're saying. Building the closest relationship, the deepest, most meaningful relationship with yourself, within yourself, is the biggest gift you can give yourself ever.
Mm.
So just putting the energy back, bringing your focus back to yourself, and let me just say that is not narcissism, because there's a lot of this stuff that says if you think too much about self this, self that, it's narcissistic behavior. But it's actually the opposite, because understanding your inner dialogue, understanding your own fears, understanding your triggers, understanding what makes you so passionate and driven and motivated about something is what is going to give you the opportunity to be the best version of yourself in this world. And that is all you have to be. You don't have to be Deepak Chopra. You don't have to be Oprah Winfrey. You don't have to be, I don't know, whoever. It doesn't matter. You just need to come back to your best potential. And that means not ignoring your thoughts, not ignoring your feelings, not ignoring any part of you that's trying to talk to you. I'm going to stop now because I could just go on and on about this because it's so important.
That it brings me to think about ourselves, this complexity of physicality, mentality, spirituality as a beautiful instrument that we're learning to play. And it's a skill. And there's all kinds of incredible ways to play us in a way that brings great joy and great communion and great inspiration to everybody else around us. But it takes quite a lot of practice to do that. You know, it doesn't just happen. And sometimes it happens, life throws us a curly one and we have to fine tune what we're capable of. But, you know, there's other ways we can preempt those curly moments, can't we? And really keep working on ourselves. And then when and if the time comes, we have the skills to help ourselves and others through that moment.
And we do live in a reality, a third dimensional reality that's always going to have curveballs. So it's not about eliminating curveballs. It's just about, you know, the journey to trusting oneself, and that in those moments, the curveballs, when you're feeling like you could lose your head, you can still be centered enough and grounded enough to know to be your best version, to understand the bigger picture, even if there's like a whirlwind of you know what around you.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, that is going to happen. We do live
Yes.
in this dimension and we are thrown, I don't call them obstacles, they're just learning moments because this is
Sure.
a
Yeah.
place of learning and it's going to happen. So, yeah, finding our way to that state of grace through the skills that we've developed is a great thing. And thank you for speaking about it like that, because it is work and it's not easy. And we do need to do it if we want to evolve ourselves, our communities, and this planet. Yeah.
Yes, really important. Yeah, really important. But again, the focus is like for me, it wasn't grace. Grace wasn't the outcome. The focus was the present moment, the best version of me in the present moment. Because I just eventually learned that I can just trust that the future will take care of itself if I've got the now down pat, so to speak. Yeah.
I love that. Well, on that note, I'm encouraging everybody to take these words to heart and to be present and to you know, just follow Dijana's incredible wisdom that she's gathered along the way. Thank you very, very much.
Often excavated.
And all that, not easy sometimes. But yes, thank you so much, Dijana, for joining us on this Saturday afternoon. And I so look forward to spending more time with you, hopefully here, hopefully at Angkor Grace in Cambodia and elsewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah, I look forward to that too. I look forward to catching up next time. It'll be great. All right.